Hey guys, welcome back from our break. It's Janine here. We are at Empowered Souls Summit in order to reclaim your life, step into your personal power, and gain confidence. We have another amazing guest expert, Brian King. Welcome.
Hey, Janine, how's it going?
It's going fantastic. I'm so glad that you're here with us. So, you have a master's degree in social work, hey?
I do.
Yes. So, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, there's not a whole lot to it. It's a degree that's pretty
What got you?
ubiquitous. Or
Well, you went into social work. How long have you been a social worker, and how long, like, what drove you to that?
you want the backstory?
Yes.
Well, I grew up with a lot of undiagnosed quirks. What would now be considered the autism spectrum at one point was referred to as Asperger's, ADHD, dyslexia. But back in the day when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, I was just thought of as the lazy kid, the spacey kid. I was unmotivated. I was clumsy. So I was not the kid that was picked to be included in sports. I wasn't invited to birthday parties. I was treated like garbage by teachers and by peers. And I wasn't brought up in a very loving home. My mom was a yeller. My brothers were horrible to me. My dad was cruel, emotionally speaking. And I just kind of survived my childhood. And when I was about to graduate high school, or more so before high school and after graduating, I was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer. So summer after high school graduation, going through chemotherapy, and whatever social circle I did have fell apart. So I had to rebuild my life, my belief systems, who I thought I was. And I found my way to a therapist because I knew I needed help. I was so full of anger and bitterness, and I didn't want to spend the rest of my life feeling that way. And it was a male therapist that was assigned to me. And this man was so compassionate and patient and was everything that I did not know a man could be. Because all the guys I knew up until that point were abusive, competitive jerks. And then here was this guy that was more aligned with how I wanted to be, was much more in tune with their feelings, more intuitive, more interested in talking about
true masculinity.
Right, more interested in talking about relationships and meaning and purpose instead of talking about cars and sports and treating women like objects. It was everything I've been looking for in a relationship with another guy. And it was so fulfilling, and having a role model for that it got me thinking about how I could show up in the world, how I could be there. And through my relationship of healing, I not only learned to be vulnerable and trusting again, but I saw my path forward as far as a career. And I brought that up with him. And he says, I think you're ready. And so I saw that as my blessing, to go forward. And I graduated with my master's in 2002, and I've been doing this ever since.
Awesome. So what is it exactly that you do? Tell us. Awesome.
My most current iteration is I work with women who identify as neurodivergent, meaning their brain is by no means considered typical, normal, if that's the word you want to use, in that they maybe have a diagnosis like an autism spectrum or a bipolar, depression, anxiety, something that affects the way they show up in the world, perceive relationships, the way they think, process information, process language, and makes it difficult for them to fit in, if that's the way you want to use the word. So they're going to stand out a little bit. They're not going to do things the way other people do things. But the way society typically works is fitting in is the expected way of showing up.
So true.
And our school systems perpetuate this, and workplaces perpetuate this, religious institutions, any kind of institutions have this expectation that there is a status quo, there is the way to do things, and anybody who is unable to assimilate to that needs to be treated in a punitive way.
Yeah, it's really sad that that is the norm. I don't really believe in that label because I don't think there's anything that is normal. I think that word is so
we know
misconstrued.
Diversity is what drives innovation.
100%.
So when you are punishing diversity, which is essentially what you're doing when you discriminate against the neurodiverse, you are punishing the people who could ultimately contribute to the improvement of your life.
They're the creators, man. The misfits of the world are the ones that bring the best gold.
Hallelujah, and so women are disenfranchised historically just because of the patriarchy. And now you add neurodiversity to that, and it just gives the powers that be even more women even more reason to disenfranchise them. And I grew up being supported more by women because the guys were so mean to me. And I heard the stories about what a jerk this guy was, how this guy used me. I heard the stories of sexual assault at parties. And my brother's friend did this to me. And I learned the horror stories of how guys could be to women. And I swore to never be that guy. So I've been the guy that you can trust, that you can talk to, that you can share your stories with. I've been that guy my entire life with women.
It's funny. I was just talking about this on my podcast, actually, about that the feminine energy they go through, if they've gone through any kind of trauma, what they're doing, they'll step into their wounded masculine, right? And that the wounded masculine is these men that put women in boxes, right? They're objects. And that once they start healing, they look for masculines because they know their worth. They look for masculines exactly like you. That is a safe haven. Many people think that men are supposed to be these tough, strong, mean, like dominant people, but no, a feminine needs to feel very safe. And like what you're doing, I love what you do because you give that and you showcase what masculinity is supposed to be. 100%.
And there's a movement, I don't know where it is now, it started a couple of years ago, where there are these guys that are all buff and they grow their beards out and they're very alpha male. And they're talking about reclaiming masculinity, and it's about being the protector. And guys like me are about feminizing men and weakening role models or whatever. So I know everything that they hate. And all you guys are doing is highlighting the wounded masculine in those men. And this is a misconception that happens a lot, right? We think that the man is supposed to be like big and buff and strong and be able to like do all these things to provide. But no, an actual good masculine, like what I teach anyways, is that look at Buddha, the Dalai Lama, that is masculinity. That's hot, right? Composure, safe, nurturing, understanding. It's the balance, right? We are masculine, that's
feminine.
Exactly it. Yeah. That I've been practicing Buddhist for 27 years. So, and that's what drew me to it, was that balance. It allowed me to use all of myself, as opposed to saying, I'm only allowed to use this part because this is what's culturally acceptable, and I have to repress everything else in order to be liked.
That never works.
No, I want to be able to use all of me, or I feel like I'm being suffocated. And
so,
the women I work with is all about peeling away the onion, peeling away the layers of everything you have been told that you should be, what you should be doing. Because all of that shooting on you that you've experienced through your entire life is holding you back, and it's layers of shame and guilt and blame, and it does not serve you. And if you happen to have a child who's also neurodiverse and you've got all those layers on you, how effective are you going to be at empowering that child to navigate life effectively? So mom needs to be helped first to
100%.
unpack all that stuff. Then mom can model that for the child. So that's what I help them with now. And I go first, meaning I don't teach what I haven't done.
Yeah, well, you can't, because then you're a hypocrite, right?
Right, because I've raised my own 3 neurodiverse boys,
Mm.
and that's, I admit to my mistakes where I've screwed it up, where they've called me out, because it's a bumpy, rough road. And we learn in part by being humble enough to say, sorry.
Oh, authenticity and accountability is the new sexy.
That's part of learning from the adversity, mining the riches, is there's wealth in humility.
Mm-hmm.
Into saying I was human.
Oh, so let's talk about mining the riches of adversity, now that you're tapping into that.
Adversity is a teacher. Because one of the things that our egos can compel us to do, there's something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Not
basically
super.
people that don't have a lot of experience with something tend to overestimate their ability because they don't know what they don't know.
That's so true, actually.
So they'll say, oh man, this looks like a piece of cake. No problem, I got this. Step aside. No, I don't need any help. Hold my beer. The real cocky ones. And they put themselves out there and they totally make asses of themselves.
Yeah.
Then there are the ones that have had some experience. They realize there's something to learn each time, because each time they do it, they realize, wow, man, I thought we thought it all through. And lo and behold, there's something we missed yet again. So they're more cautious. They're a little bit more humble. They're more curious, and they're not going to be so cocky going into it. So they tend to underestimate their ability.
Yeah.
The smarter ones underestimate. The less experienced tend to overestimate their abilities.
So true.
Okay.
It's so true.
So having humility from the beginning helps you be much more teachable. Being a student constantly, don't allow yourself to become an expert. That kind of humility keeps you open and teachable and curious. And you don't lose your sense of wonder that way.
I love that. Like, that people forget that. Even like as us in helping people, I think a lot of people forget that we also have mentors that keep us accountable, that teach us things, right? We are human. We don't know everything. And when you can actually hone into that and understand, maybe I'm not good at this. Maybe I need some help with this, and put that ego aside. That is so important. Like, absolutely important.
And one of the things, this is a result of our culture, living in America here. And one thing I've recently discovered TikTok, and one of the things I'm really loving is there are people from Europe and Canada that criticize America and say everything that's wrong with America. And I'm sitting here as an American applauding these people because they're nailing it. Everything that's wrong with our economic system and whatever. But one of the issues with our thinking is we are so dichotomous. So black and white, so either or. I mean, that's one of the reasons why you have these alpha males that this is masculine and nothing else.
Yeah.
No, you can't have feelings and sensitivity or anything else. Now, because of my ADHD, I just forgot what we were talking about before.
We were talking about mining the riches of adversity and like putting the ego aside and like owning up to the fact that you don't know everything and help is needed. And then you went into TikTok.
Yeah, saying what was wrong with our system, and there was about the dichotomy, black and white thinking. There was something before that.
Oh, how you were talking about how they were Oh man, now my ADHD is
I
getting.
almost need a note taker to follow me everywhere to just type what I'm saying so I can just say, excuse me for a moment. And, like a stenographer to ask what I was saying. But one thing that really stymies us a lot is, oh, I just remembered what it was, is this need to be the expert,
Yes.
to think that you need to be measured by how much you know compared to other people. I'm a number one, I know more than you. And this resistance to demonstrating any kind of teachability or ignorance for fear of looking like you don't know what you're doing, or you just don't know, period. Where I want to be the most curious guy in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be wowed. I want to learn something from everybody that's there. Because ultimately, if I ask somebody a question, I get to clarify my understanding by showing what I know.
That's true. That is
So I can say,
100% true.
oh, you mean it's like this, 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 and this? And they'll say, yeah, right on. It's just like that. So I get to support the person that I'm inquiring of, while also simultaneously showing, yeah, I'm with you. And I can move the conversation along. But it also shows the other person, I'm really interested in you. I'm invested in you.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to just kind of trying to create an audience for myself by showing off all the big words I know that I learned in class.
It's about, it's about giving substance, right?
Right. But the gift you give yourself by being humble and teachable, how many new ideas do you allow to come in that can ignite something in you that you have been looking for? Those aha moments that can move you forward, just because you're walking in there saying, wow, I can't wait to see what these people know.
Well, what is the saying that every person that you meet is a new teacher?
Exactly.
Yeah.
My pain, I'm in pain 24/7. Mm-hmm. Because I have a physical condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And it's a genetic condition that results in very weak connective tissue. So my tendons and my ligaments are pretty flimsy. They injure very easily. They're very slack. My joints are unstable. They're very wobbly. So when I move, it's like I'm drunk. And my joints can partially dislocate and get stuck, and I need to pop them back into place constantly. And I just hurt all the time, and sometimes more than others. And I need to have a degree of acceptance and peace with that. Otherwise, my brain is nothing but bitching about how dissatisfied I am with the state of things. Mm-hmm. And if I did that, I would be depressed all the time. And I do have some depression, don't get me wrong, because it's depressing to be in pain all the time. But that's not the only experience I have. I also experience joy and happiness and fulfillment. So those things those things can coexist. And my pain also teaches me patience. It teaches me to slow down, pace myself. Mm-hmm. It teaches me to be more receptive to help.
Yep.
Because there's, more and more I'm needing that as my condition progresses and it gets harder for me to do things. And there are times you need to talk it through and process it and be reminded it's okay to ask for help. And sometimes I need to just cry.
That's
in
wonderful.
Order to get through that.
To understand those emotions within yourself is epically beautiful, because a lot of people don't hone into those different feelings and those different spectrums within themselves, right? And to be able to understand that, yes, you're in pain, but you're not letting that adversity stop you from helping others, helping yourself. And emotions, we go through them, right? They're there to showcase to us how to experience the experience that is going on right now.
How do you, reality is reality. Reality in my definition refers to the things you can't change. Mm-hmm. It's the stuff that you're stuck with. And what are you going to do with that?
That's the question.
And that's what the teacher is for. The teacher gives it to you and says, here, now what?
Yeah. What are you
What are
going to
you
do
gonna
with
do?
all this information?
What are you going to do with this?
I love it. It is so true.
And that's where the mining the riches comes from, because ultimately you're going to have to change something about you.
Mm-hmm. People come into our lives to showcase to us. I tell people, like, this is my belief, right? That everybody is a mirror to teach us what's going on with us. You snapping? Why are you snapping? Other people are snapping around you. Why are you snapping? It's all there. I love it. It's very similar to, like, well, and that's why we connect, right? We're all kind of connected.
Mhm.
Very similar to my belief system. And, people need to understand that it starts in here. Then once you can figure that out, you take action, right?
And it's wonderful when, when I meet people like you realize that this knowledge, this insight's not hidden.
No.
You kind of find your way to it. It's out there, it's available to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Through allowing yourself to consider certain questions.
Oh, it took me forever to get there, but you know what? I got there. And that's the thing. Some people, they kind of sit in that woe is me victim headspace, right? Because they're like, all these things are happening to me. All these things are happening to me. No, honey, you are creating that. And once the light bulb goes off, that's when, all the answers start coming in. And then you ask more questions. And then more answers come in. And you're like, oh man, what took me so long? And then you're like, okay, well, I don't know this. More questions.
And you just keep asking the questions.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully some of those questions will lead to you realizing that none of it is about you.
Yeah. And when you realize that, oh man, the freedom. That's absolute freedom.
It's not personal. The universe and all of its vastness is not worried about you.
No.
It includes you. It includes you. You're part of this process. Just like the smallest vein in the leaf is a part of the process that is the tree. But the tree is not thinking, man, this next move, I better get the consultation of the vein in the leaf first.
Could you imagine if it did?
That'd be crazy. I mean, it just does what it does.
Yeah.
Some things may get inconvenienced along the way. As hard as it is to accept from a human standpoint, we just had all those tornadoes tear through Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And we lost a lot of human lives. In the larger scheme of things, nature was following its rules.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, and a word humans would use was tragically, because that was our experience of it.
Yeah.
Tragically, lives were lost, but to a tornado, it was just being a tornado.
Yeah. The cause and effect, right? It is what it is.
we got a virus that's swarming through the world right now, just being a virus. There's often these clashing between processes. None of it's personal.
No, and when people can understand and accept that, that's the thing, key acceptance, right? And they can accept the fact that it is not personal. Everything, the whole dynamic changes. But that's one of the biggest conflicts. That's what starts wars. Taking things personal.
Oh man, he disrespected me. Where's the button? You violated my honor. I have to get my honor back.
Yeah, I'm gonna go pout in the corner over here because I didn't get you to validate something for me. Oh, you told me no. Like, it's like a child, right? It's the same thing. You want the cookie? No, you're about to have dinner, but I want the cookie. No, you can't have the cookie, but I want it. No, and then they go throw a temper tantrum, right?
The things, the significance that certain things can hold in a person's life, the amount of power they can give it that it doesn't deserve.
Oh, it's 100%. It's very sad, but the thing is, that's where awareness comes in, and that's where people like us that You know, we've gone through this and we see it from the different spectrum, right? And then we help spread that message because it's all about lifting each other up. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want love, right? We want to love ourselves. We want to love others. And in order to do that, well, it stems from awareness and understanding. And then that's when it comes in on all aspects. Like, I'm not talking relationships, I'm talking in general.
One metaphor that comes to mind that I really enjoy is when a flower comes to blossom, and when the blossom opens and the fragrance just naturally releases, and the flower can't help but do that. It's just its nature to do it. And then everybody around it can smell the fragrance. That's what people that have learned how to navigate all this stuff, and then they talk about it. They're just helpful. And then other people pick it up and they benefit. That's the fragrance being released.
Love that metaphor.
And if we all do that and people just benefit from it, that's how healing takes place.
Yeah. It's the only way to transmute it. I really love that metaphor.
Yeah. And that's how it's supposed to work, the paying it forward.
Yeah.
And this vehicle that we have, Zoom and social media, when the algorithm doesn't work against us, because we have
or technology in general.
Yeah, I won't even get started with who's pulling the strings and whatever. But just being able to make those connections gives me hope that at some point we'll be able to create the necessary shift to just.
I honestly believe that the shift is happening from where I'm sitting and looking, just like from everything that's happened. If you look at the last 2 years with this virus, right? The people are waking up. People are starting to see what's valuable and what's not valuable. Not everybody is awake, and that's okay. They'll wake up at their own time, or they won't. But there is a shift that's happening in regards to that. I truly see it. There's also a divide, but I guess it's like where you're focusing your attention.
I know the people that are not thinking like this are becoming more and more panicked.
Yes, it's one or the other for sure.
That's one thing that I'm seeing for sure. And I'm definitely finding more people that are thinking like this, bringing them more into my community, which is really exciting because that's something that I haven't had before. And that's helping with my own growth, which then, of course, I can pay forward to people as well.
Well, it's those level up moments, right? Where
one thing I want to emphasize about my way of thinking is that this is coming from somebody that had a miserable childhood, attempted suicide at 15, had cancer at 18, has raised 3 kids on the spectrum who had meltdowns, who had been in and out of residential treatment. My oldest boy tried to commit suicide twice and almost succeeded the first time. Absolutely horrendous divorce from their mother, living with chronic pain. And I'm telling you, it's not personal. So I'm not somebody who is just living off of fortune cookie wisdom.
I also love that analogy.
Okay. This is lived experience.
Yeah.
I'm not lying to myself and saying, oh, it's all going to work out for the best.
No, you can't put on that fake persona. People see through that, right? I always say, like, the best teachers are the ones that have gone through the darkest shadows. They've seen it on multiple occasions, like your story. You have gone through so many different steps, right? And you have that knowledge from living it. And when you've actually lived it, you can inspire others and you can help others change their perspective because you know it on a personal level.
Some of the stuff I've shared on Facebook that not only terrifies my wife, because she's very, very introverted and private, but people respond to it like, oh my God, I can't believe you just talked about that. Or you're a guy talking about that. And one of the things that I reiterate to people is, all those stuff that people are afraid to talk about, or those things about yourself that you really need to look at. Yeah, I go there.
Yeah.
I've gone there in myself, and I'm not afraid of it.
You got to
You
be
may
that
still be.
savage sometimes.
Yeah, you may still be, but I'm not afraid of that anymore. And because I'm not afraid of it anymore, when you're ready to go there, we can go there together.
Oh yeah, I'm all about, that is my message. Like, you know, I'm all about truth and authenticity, and I say some things that really rub people the wrong way. But the reason why it rubs them the wrong way is because they're hiding from that truth, right? So I'm just like,
Oh yeah.
poke, poke, poke.
The people that rage on you are afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And when you can, like, when you can hold up that mirror and actually be like, oh man, there's a lesson here. That is the moment where it's just like everything switches. And you know, you got to be real. I love the rawness of you because I tell everybody I'm a savage bitch. Like, excuse my language, guys, but because, and it's not that, like, you know me, I'm not a mean person, but I will definitely hold up that mirror because I've been there, right? It's that experience, and I was the one hiding.
Well, and some people will unfairly conflate meanness with pain.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody says something to you that is more vulnerable than you're used to, and you experience some pain, you might say, why'd you say something so mean?
Mm-hmm. It's not mean, but it's from the experience of where our thought process is at, right?
I said something from a place of vulnerability within me that I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
And it reminded you of something vulnerable in you that you had shame wrapped around.
Yeah.
So to you, you feel it as mean.
Yeah.
We're in two different places emotionally.
100%. Yeah. Well, and that's the teachableness, right? Goes back to the teachableness. You can play the expert, but if you're not teachable, there's no growth.
Yeah, you got to ask, now why did that happen that way?
Yeah.
I had an intention of how I wanted this to go, how I wanted to be heard.
Yeah.
It went different. Then I don't, it went wrong, it went south, it went bad, it went to hell. No, it went different.
Yeah.
Wonder what that was about.
There is no right or wrong or good or bad. There's just the experience at hand.
Yeah, it's just an experiment. You put it out there, you see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay, that one different. I wonder what that was about. I wonder what happened. And you'd be curious about it.
Yeah.
As opposed to offended. That takes it in an entirely different direction.
So true. So Brian, I want to say thank you for coming on here, and I love chatting with you. You're so fun. Can you tell all of our viewers that want to connect with you, that have gotten a personal connection over this with you, where can they find you on platforms? How can they reach out?
Well, you can always start with my website, which is briancanhelp.com. And as I mentioned, I'm on TikTok, which is Brian Can Help as well. I'm Brian Can Help on Instagram. And just look up Brian R. King on Facebook. And those are my main hubs.
Awesome. So if you had one word of advice that can help the people watching today make a change, a shift in their consciousness in order to bring more abundance, what would that be?
Remember that if you are worried or anxious, you're either in the present, you're either in the past or the future. And the only way you can be in either of those two places is to be in your imagination.
Oh, I love it.
If you want to be out of either of those places and be calm again, you need to be in the present, because that's where all of your life is happening.
Ah, so true.
So
I love that.
That's what I'll leave you with.
I love that. So everybody, everyone involved here, all of our wonderful speakers are offering a free gift for you attending and showing up for yourself today. So Brian, what is it that you are gifting to all of our lovely viewers?
I'm gifting my ebook, which I'm very proud of, which is, I don't remember the exact wording of it because my working memory makes it hard to remember things off the cuff. But what it is, it's about how to rejection proof yourself. Because one of the difficulties in the neurodiverse community is people not wanting to include you because it's something that we're so used to. And it can really hit hard. So I shared one of my best strategies for how to really buffer that so that it doesn't hit as hard. And it can really set you up for taking more risks and putting yourself out there more and opening yourself up for more opportunities to make those meaningful connections.
Oh, I love that. That is so important. Well, Brian, thank you again for coming on here and sharing your story and being an inspiration, because you are freaking amazing.
It's been a blast. I'm so glad we did this.
Yeah, me too. So guys, we're going to take a short break, go get a glass of water, take a pee, grab a quick snack, and we're going to come with our next guest speaker. Thank you again, Brian.
Thank you.